Greetings. I am making this video sitting on the back porch of my hotel room in beautiful Mexico. There's this tremendous tropical weather here. The beach sounds in the background, and I'm sure you'll hear wind and birds singing. And one great thing about being here is I get at least a week free of being around that crazy dog Sophie. You would not believe what I caught her doing on the mirror of our bathroom. One of the great lasting griefs of my life is I taught that dog how to write. But in any case, today's video is the answer to the assignment given in the last video. You could do this several different ways. One is you could just watch this video in its entirety and then try doing it yourself, or you can watch the video a little bit and pause it and do it yourself, and watch it a little bit and do it yourself, or you could try doing it yourself and then watching the video to see how I did it, to see if mine was any different. That's the great thing about these blogs. You can do it any way you want. But I hope you have a good time working through it. It's a long video. It's a 40-minute video because it works through the entire assignment. And so you can be patient and break it over a couple days, or however way you want to do it. So I hope you enjoy it. In this video, we are going to work through the last assignment, provide an answer for you or a model of how it would be done. Hopefully you've tried it on your own or working on your own and following along with me here. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll put the organization name just to get us some sense of what we're looking at. Union, okay, and we've got departmental discretionary budget report, okay, and then we'll put the date in there, May 31st, 2009. Now in a later video I will show you how to get these dates to automatically appear, so you want to keep watching these videos. Now I did this in the wrong column here, so let's copy it over. Let's cut, and what we're basically going to do is right click and paste to get those where we're going to have this column hidden. It will have the account numbers that we're giving to them, and then this column here will have the account names, so we can wind that up, and we just try to get you oriented. And what we'll have is columns. You know, this would be completely up to the organization what they wanted. We'll have a column here that will say year to date, and then we'll have actual, okay, current year, and we'd have budget. I guess logic, we would need to put current year right here, and here we put actual, here we put budget, okay. And I think it would be very cool to have these centered over these actual and budget year to date, okay. Right, and so I'm highlighting that like that, and we'll right click and do format cells and cell, and we'll do alignment, and we want the orientation. Okay, I always grab the wrong one there. Orientation, center across cells, okay, and we'll do the exact same thing. So you can just watch it here before you pause. And so we'll format cells, cell, okay, alignment and horizontal, and center across cells. Now I could have, oh brother, I did that wrong, so let's do that right down, and format cell, alignment. And you can do a whole, you can have a bunch of cells that you've grabbed. I just did it individually so you have a couple chances to show it to you. And then on this one we want the format to be centered. And I'm not sure I mentioned at the beginning, but this is going to be a long video basically going through all of the steps of doing this project. Okay, this is year to date, actual, and budget. And then we could do last year. Actual. Okay, that might be okay. Now of course you'd put the ones that you want, and then you would put perhaps annual budget here. And then remainder, or available, or whatever you want to call it. And of course you would have complete control when you do this in your real life organization to be exactly like you want it. Okay, let's delete that column here just to keep it not too wide. And so we'll delete column. Okay, and we'll underline it there. Looks pretty good to me. All right, and so we'll have the account names, numbers running down here that we're allowing the department heads to have access to control, their account names, and we will have those types of values for those 4 queries across here, and then a calculation taking actual from the annual budget to get the remainder. Okay, so to get the account names would be our next step. What accounts are we going to give discretion to our department heads on? Now we could sit here and simply type these things, 811 and 32, whatever you see, and whatever that account is, but that would just be way more boring than we want. So what we're going to do is go over, and don't get confused with this, I'm going over to another sheet to simply extract out the the listing of the 10 or so accounts that I want to give the department heads responsibility for. So I'll create another sheet over here, and this is just a simple little listing we're going to make of the accounts that we're giving the department head responsibility for. So I could do this many ways, and so maybe a nice handy way of doing that is with a summary report, and we'll come down here and we'll go to say chart of accounts, many other ways to do it, and the account codes, and this is the critical point here. Okay, so we'll push down 8 to drop down to these expense areas, and we'll pick, by holding the control button down, we will pick the ones that we are giving the department's responsibility for. Okay, what I'm grabbing here is just arbitrary for just the sake of this illustration, but if I was the real CFO, I would be very careful and maybe even met with them and talked to them about which accounts they feel like they wanted to handle. I want to get a good many for our illustration so we don't come up with empty well, and so we go OK. And so we've selected the expenses and the account code. We want the account code to go over to the right, okay, by double-clicking account code and double-clicking description. And I think we're all set, and we'll go OK, and we'll extract this. And so let's just say that this is the accounts that we are now going to allow the department heads to have discretionary control over, and we've had a lot of discussion about what those would be in our organization, and now we're making a report that keeps them up to date with how they stand on these budget items. So we've copied it, highlighted just the information I wanted, and now we're copying it back to our first sheet. And so we'll take this, we'll go paste here. And so to reduce our confusion, we will make sure we're not any bit confused on it. I'm going to delete and close this workbook so that's off the scene. And so you can see that we're making some progress. Okay, so this is the sheet as we are now have it ready for to do the next step. So I hope you've got that done. Now what we want in this cell right here is the actual for the year to date. So we need to, the next step I think to get things all sort of set up before we start writing queries is that we need to do something with dates. And so we need prompts. Now let's think about what prompts we need. We need a prompt that will capture the year to date this year. This is year to date this year, and year to date last year, and the year to date, the entire year. And so I think what we'll do is we'll write 3 prompts. We will spend more time talking about dates and the issues with dates in other videos, but we're going to just, for the sake of clarity, write 3 prompts. One that captures the year to date, the periods that make up the year to date, so we can use it for these 2 columns, the period to make up year to date for last year, and then the entire year, so we have it available to be used where we need it. So we're going to make 3 prompts, and so if we double click there, nothing happens. So up here we go click click, nothing happens. Now, for some reason we have to go up here first to prompts, and we add a prompt, and we'll call it current what, and we don't leave any spaces in there, so we'll call it something like current year to date, and we put in an instruction to the user, enter current year to date range. Okay, and so we could put in something like 2007, anything really works, 001, and 207008. And I know some of you probably wondering, why don't I put in 2009, and we're making this report for May, why don't we put in 209005 for May 31st? Well, I'm intentionally not doing that here, so you make sure you have a good understanding of the default. Role of the default is just to sit there like a dummy until we change it to what we want for each time we run the report. And so I want to make sure you have a clear disconnect between what this is doing as far as it relates to the date here. And so I've just grabbed this practically irrelevant range to depict the 8 months of 2007. It's just sitting there as the default of this prompt. And so we go OK, and then we do we add another prompt, and I'll double click here, and you see nothing happens. I don't think that nothing happens, but watch, if I come up here and I save my project, okay, and we'll call this the departmental report for videos, so I can keep that straight. Alright, and so now I've saved it, and I come back up here and I go, that still didn't work. That's alright. We come up here and go to prompt, and we add a prompt, and this will be prior YTD. Okay, enter prior year to date. Okay, and to be logically consistent as a modeling, so that the users are presented with something that makes sense to them, I'm going to put 2006-001, okay, and to go through 2006-008. You see, and this is connected to, if this is our default for the current year to range, then this is a logical default for our prior year to date range, and neither one of them have anything to do with what we really use to run the report. They're just modeling the type of information that is in there. They're modeling it for the user, so the user knows what they're doing. Okay, then we're still not getting anything automatically pop up. That's okay by us. We go to prompts, we add the prompt, okay, and then we add current year, no space, and we go current enter current year range. Okay, and logically, if we want to build this so the defaults are logically modeling, and so that'd be 2007-001, and the value would go to 2007-012. Okay, and so we have defaults that are logically harmonious, so to speak. And then we need one more prompt. Still not getting it. I'm going to keep trying. I'm optimistic. Prompt, we're going to add it, and that is for the business unit. And so we just call that business unit, and enter unit. Okay, and we put a prompt here, and since we are using the ZAD, we'll put that baby in there. It's sort of a nice default. And so now we make this, and we can share it to with other people in the SunPlus world. We can move it to other audit clients. We can move it to other organizations, other business units in our other organizations. And don't forget that this business unit is just one value, so there's no range to be involved. And those 4 prompts made, and they're ready for us when it comes to preparing our a little bit bigger. Those 4 prompts are now ready for when we do our queries. Now we have an interesting little thing here, and into one sense you're just going to have to sort of follow along and make sense out of it. But when we do our queries, we are going to write summary links. And so if you just watch for a second, because I'm going to, and it's going to go to that business unit at the top, and that we're going to point to. But I want to show you something real quick here. It is going to give us the ledger as that we want to use, a chance to set that. Well, we didn't talk much about ledger in the past, but the ledger is the ledger in SunPlus, and there's 10 different ledgers that you can use. And as far as I know, only the first 2 are being used by SunPlus organizations. A is the actual, stands for actual data, so your transactions, all your real live day-to-day transactions are all in the A ledger, and in the B ledger is the budget. Okay, so what we want to do is to put across here a capital A, because this column is going to use the A ledger. Okay, and this column is going to use the B ledger because it's the budget information, and this column is going to use the A ledger, and this column is going to use the B ledger. And this is following the principle that in our queries we want as much as possible to build things by reference instead of just hardwiring them into the query. Okay, so we're now with that little thing there, you will understand it better as we go along. With that little thing there, we're ready to now start writing a query. We're writing a query that defines cell C12. C12. So everything we do has to do with C12. And this query here will be pulling from this account. It will be pulling from the year-to-date prompts up here, and it will be pulling from this ledger. And so now we're ready to come down and write a query for this cell. Now we're writing a query for cell C12. C12 needs to use this account right here. It needs to use the prompts for the current period, It needs to use the A ledger. So remember, keep in mind, we're just doing C12. Then when we're done, we'll use cut and paste to get it the rest of all of these other cells populated. So we want a cell that is most capable of being cut and paste. So we'll double click that, and we're writing summary links. Remember, we're wanting one value to come in for this, and so whenever we're wanting just one value, summary link is the most likely answer. One value of transactional information, summary link. So business unit, we come up here, and I'm going to try this. It hasn't been working, but I'll try it one more time. We'll put this in here. Let's see, just try it one time. If not, now that is the informal way of doing it, going up and clicking. The formal way is coming here and clicking this field reference, and so we click this, and all of our prompts are right here, and we click that, and so business unit, we go OK, and we have business unit in there, and then the table that we want to use is our ledger, so we're OK with that. And now the table, this is tricky here, so we want to pay close attention. The table is our ledger table, but the particular ledger within the ledger we want to use is a little confusing. And so I've got my highlight right on that, and I'm coming up here, and I want that value C. I'm working in C12, so I want for all of my C's to be pulling from my A ledger. Okay, so that will be my actual. And then the account code, I want for all of my accounts on this row, I want to pull from this cell right there. And the dollar signs here indicate the same thing they do in Excel. And so it looks like it has guessed correctly that when we copy this, we always want to be in row 7, but we want it to change as far as the column is concerned. And down here, we always wanted to draw from column A, but not be absolute on the row number. So it is guessed correctly. It usually does. The accounting period, okay, hope springs eternal. So I've got my cursor right here, and I'm hoping I can just go right up here and click that, but no luck. And so maybe this is just providential way that you can see the two ways to do it. And so I've got my cursor right there, and I'm wanting the beginning of my year-to-date figure, and that is right in here. Now watch carefully, because there's this little diamond right there that we open, and that is the beginning of the range, and this is the end of the range. And so I'm currently working on the beginning, so I click that, and I go OK. And so I have the beginning of the current year-to-date prompt, and you can see I have the single brackets, and so I put my cursor there and go over here again, and I open it. I actually didn't need to open it last time, but this allows me to pick up the end of my year-to-date prompt. Okay, and if you look at this, you could see that we have the double brackets here indicating that it is the end of the range that was given, and you can look over here and see that we're building a very reasonable query. The values are being returned exactly the way that we want them to do on every one of these types. Alright, and so what we want from after all these filters are applied is that we want the Sun systems, the Q&A, to return the base amount, the sum of all of the transactions that meet these criteria, that are from this ledger, from the actual ledger, from that account, and for this period only. And so we go OK, and then we're able to now copy this. Okay, if I right click that, I go copy and I go paste, and you're going to say, ooh, that's pretty cool, because now, because I've done referencing to both the query and here, I actually am, this copied cell is actually accurate. The only difference between this one and this one is this is working with actual and this is working with budget. So I double click that just to show you that it's exactly the same. It's pulling from that account. It is pulling for the right period, but now it is because of this reference, it is pulling in from the budget. Okay, so it's fine without me doing anything. And now I'm going to right click again. I'm going to copy into here and paste. And if you look at the query now, you can see that it is pulling from the right business unit and the right ledger, and we're working on this column here, column E, the budget last year, and it is pulling in, no, this was the actual for last year, excuse me, very important distinction, with the actual for last year, and so we are getting the actual, so that's copied fine from the right account, from A12 and 87 1/3, that's right, you see, but right now it is still pulling in for the year-to-date current year. So in essence, that this value here for current year-to-date in this column and here, right now this is the same, exactly the same value, it's only just been copied over. But we want to change the period here so it points to our last, and so our last year-to-date, not the current year-to-date. So we come over here and we've got enter prior year-to-date, and that brings that baby up, and sort of nonsensical right here, we want the end of the prior year range, and so we come over here, we click the little diamond and we get the beginning and the end, and we go OK with that. Okay, and so everything is now just peachy, except for this thing is looking at the prior year to date. So this one is fine, and now we can copy it again. Okay, let's just copy this C12 since that's what we understand the best, and we paste, and we have the right ledger, because we're looking at budget information in this column F. So it is pulling in from the budget, it is pulling in from that account correctly, and so the only thing that is wrong is the accounting period. And so here is the beginning of the accounting period, and what we want, not accounting period, but what period we want is that we want the full year. So we come down here to where it says enter the current year range, and we put this as the beginning. Okay, and we come down here and just doing the same thing, and now we're in current year range and the end, and see this is the beginning of the year because it's got single brackets, and this is the end of the year here because it has double brackets. Okay, so I'm going to pause for just a second here, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now we've copied these, and we hope that we've got them reflecting properly. And we need to do a little math here. We do it exactly like we do in Excel. So I'm going to put an equal sign, and I put equal F12 minus C12. How's that sound? Next step we'll do is we'll format these like we want it. And for the sake of having something to do with it, I am going to right click these and format the cells. Sake of having something to show you to modify, you might be happy with like that, is I want them to be a number. I want them to be a number with no decimal places, and I want to use commas. Of course, you would do what you want. You might want to use periods as your thousand separator, and you might want decimal places. So we go OK, and we did it beforehand because we're now going to take this, and I'm right clicking there, and we'll copy that baby, and we'll come right down here, and we'll right click, and we'll go paste. And as crazy as it sounds, we've now done this. This should be insurance expense for the year-to-date budget, and if we click that just to show you that it worked, we're looking at the budget, and we're looking at insurance expense, and for the whole year, and it's working just perfect. Okay, and so we're continuing with our little work here, and so we could do a little underline there, and we go OK. And we just do it just like we do in Excel, or close to what we do in Excel. I think there's a slight difference. And we'll hit the summation button, and we have the summary, and you can see it says 14 because there's 14 ones there. It's adding up in the design mode, and we don't want we want this to be numbers, and we don't want any decimal places, and so we've got that. And then we'll put the double underline under here, the little trick that I showed you in an earlier video. We'll put that right there. We'll go OK, and we're doing it like that. And so we don't forget to do it later on. We'll get rid of this column. I mean, not get rid of it, we can't delete it or we're in big trouble. But we'll just hide it. So we'll format the column to be hidden. And we need to format this row to be hidden. We don't want it to show up. And so we'll format the row to hide it. And then the only thing that's left to do for the time being, for 1 second, is that we need to put the breakout code. So we're going to make this report run for the whole organization. Then we're going to break it out by each of the departments. So we'll put the breakout code. And so we'll right click in here and define the criteria, just like we did in the earlier video. And that is one of the few times we go to field references, and we go over to here in the field reference and go to breakout code. There, and it says breakout code there, and we're in good shape. And then the last thing we want to do, we're so close to being done, almost taste it, but we want the name of the organization to show up here automatically whenever we run the report, so we can move this report from one business unit to another. So I'm going to write I think maybe the best thing to do here is to clear the contents, and then we'll write a query that is going to bring up the name of the business unit. And so that is going to be a reference link, I suppose, would be good for that. For the business unit, we need to point up here to this business unit there. Our pointing still isn't working, so we'll go the formal way, hit the business unit, go OK. So whenever the business unit that is fed from the prompt comes through here, it will come over here to the static data, common, business unit. Okay, and we have to do it twice. It's a little bit confusing here why it has to be twice, but it has its own mind. And what we want from the business unit is the name of the business unit. And so this is the code, like ZAD, and this is the name of the business unit right here, description. We want that over there. And we now have a report ready to go. We'll save that baby and we'll extract it. Alright, and so we're doing this for May 31st of 2009. So we're extracting and have to go through this painful process of changing all these prompts, but it's not too bad. And so we go here. This is the current year, 2009, and we want 2009-01-005, and this is where it does matter. This is the current year, and then this is the prior year, and that will be 2008-001 and 2008-005. You want to make sure you stay tuned for the video that shows how to make all this automatic. Okay, and on this one we want 2009-001 and 2009-012, and you review that. They all start with something that makes sense and they all end right here. And so now we'll extract it, and we extract the report and extract the primary worksheet and see what we've got. Looks pretty good if you ask me. Now let's see here. Let's look and check our math. We have the actual and the budget, and our many places we have just out of laziness more than anything else uploaded actual data and budget data in our sample database. But here you could see that we have the seminar expenses are more than the budget so far this year, and the annual budget is showing up down this column here, and the remainder is, this is the annual budget minus the remainder, so it looks like everything is working fine. So we're ready to do a breakout. We're going to break out. We're going to specify that we're doing the breakout by the function. Okay, so we'll get the function, and we want to break out by the name of the function, not the function code. We'll end up with something that doesn't make sense to our users, but you know, everybody knows that they're the Sabbath School department. They may not know the code we're using, so we've got the name of the function, and then we don't want to forget to come over here and to suppress the 0 rows, and we go OK. And we have a report now for each of our departments. Okay, and to save this, we'll go to this drill path so we don't forget it, and it's available for the next time we run it. We'll add a drill path, call it anything we want, breakout or something like that. Breakout by departments. Okay, let's say OK. So this drill path has been saved for us there. So now we're basically done with our report. Make sure that we save it so we can use it again. And that is the assignment. In a future video, maybe in the next one, I always change my mind between videos, but maybe the next one, on a future video, we will talk about how to export this to Excel or prepare it as a PDF to get it distributed out, and even maybe a video on discussing on automatically emailing this to the departments, but those are future videos. So thank you for listening, and I will drop back now and make the video giving instructions about what I would like for you to make, sort of to our prior selves, instructions on what I want them to do, and we'll use this as the model that they need to follow, or you need to follow, or we need to follow, whatever.